Hey crafty peeps! I'm so excited about this video, top 20 of 2020. Let's just get right into it. For the next project, we're going to make some wall art, although you could just set it on your counter as well. I grabbed this charger and this wooden spoon and fork from the Dollar Tree. What I love about that charger is you don't have to do anything to it. It looks great all on its own. Now I'm going to add some black paint to these. One of my little methods is I just squirt paint right onto what I'm going to paint. Kind of helps make it a little easier. I tend to squirt too much paint on paper wherever I put it when I do it that way. So this kind of just helps me not waste paint. I'll set those aside to dry, and now I've printed these out, cut these out on my Cricut. This is only the second project I've made with my Cricut, and I struggled a little bit here. I think maybe I don't have the right transfer paper, I'm not sure. So I struggled a little bit with these smaller words, getting them all unstuck, so I kind of spared you my process there. And I will show you how I do it with the word love, because that one was way easier. And I just stick it to the middle of my plate. When my kids were little, they would say, "Mom, this tastes so good" at dinner. And I would say, "You know why? You want to know what the secret ingredient is?" And they'd be like, "What was it?" And I'd say, "It was love." And so when I saw this quote, I was like, that is exactly what I need in my kitchen, because that is always what I tell my kids. I made it extra special because I put love in it. Now it's time to add the spoon and fork. I will do this again with both E6000 and hot glue to keep it in place. Lastly, I will add the bow and the project is done. And I love, love, love this. I hung it on my wall with some command strips and voila. As you can hear, my dog is in the background saying hello, and sometimes you might see her in and out of the frame, but she's my little sidekick, and she doesn't want to go too far from Mama. I just want to take a moment and thank you all for this amazing year of 2020. I just started this channel in April of 2020, and it has just taken me into the most amazing community of people. Between you guys, my viewers, and other amazing YouTubers, it is such an amazing community. I just want to thank you all for being amazing viewers. You leave me the sweetest comments, and it just really means a lot to me. I'm so happy to be on this journey of sharing craft tutorials, because it really is my favorite thing to do. And so I'm so glad that I can do this as a job now, because it's my dream job. So thank you for helping me achieve that. Now, one thing I would like to say as we move through this video is it all has original voiceovers. So you'll hear me say this first project or this last project when it's really not the first or the last. So, keep that in mind as you move through this video. And also, as I said, I'm new to YouTube this year, and I played around a lot with how I filmed and edited. So sometimes you'll see it over my shoulder, sometimes you'll see it upside down, and sometimes you'll see it right side up. So please keep that in mind. I know it'll go back and forth, but I think I've found my groove now. And again, I'm just so blessed to be here. So let's get moving on through the rest of these top DIYs. To make this faux birchwood candle holder, this is a new item that I just found at Dollar Tree recently, along with this lightweight spackling also from Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to start grabbing some of this and rubbing it onto this. I guess this would probably be a pencil holder. It was in their craft section and it's really nice looking. And they also had it in square. And so I'm just going to just push it down, and it doesn't stick super great. You're going to see little pieces fall off, but if you just take your fingertips, push down, and just go slowly around it, it does stick, and it will look so neat. Just wait and see. And once it's dried, I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of sandpaper, and I am going to lightly, and I mean very lightly, sand this down. It has a really neat texture, but there's some little pokies and things, so I'm just barely touching it with the sandpaper, and it just smooths it out perfectly. And now I'm going to cover it with a cashew colored paint from Waverly, and I'm just going to put that around the whole thing. And this kind of seals it in, kind of helps with the dust that was coming off of it. And now I'm going to take hazelnut, and I'm just going to make a very light line onto this, and this is where we're gonna make that faux birchwood. And at first I found that I was using too thick of a brush. I end up switching it out, but it's okay if you make a little bit of a mistake like I just did. I end up doing it more on purpose because it makes just a deeper brown going around it, and it makes it look like it has some depth. So here I just go for that really straight tipped brush, and it makes for the lines to be much thinner. So I'm just going to play around here. I'm going to go around making these little marks, and then I'm going to darken up some spots, and then lastly I'm going to make that where it kind of looks like the wood is peeling away and you've revealed kind of that dark black spot. Here's where I just do that little darker spot. I play around with some of the colors to give it that depth and just how the birchwood looks. To finish off, I just put this little piece of pool noodle in and some of this Spanish moss on top. You really could put anything you want inside. This just seemed to fit perfect. And then once that's on there, I just put this little battery operated tea light right on top and set it inside. And it makes the cutest and most rustic looking birchwood candle holder. I found this amazing Tabasco, I always say tobacco basket at Hobby Lobby for $3.99 on one of their clearance specials. And it says it was normally like $49.99. I don't think that could possibly be true, because I don't think these really go for that much. But anyhow, I was very excited to get this for $3.99. It is the exact colors that I want. So I grabbed this family MDF sign from the Dollar Tree, and I will use that, and I will also use this windmill, also from Hobby Lobby. It's actually a Christmas ornament, and I bought it on sale last Christmas. I've been holding on to it for a special project, but it was normally, I want to say it was normally like $5, and I got it for like $2. And then I'm going to use some of this lamb's ear and some of this ribbon, also from Hobby Lobby, that I do believe I also got on a clearance at Christmas time. I love clearance shopping, so definitely check out those clearance sales. That's how I stock up on ribbon and all those things. Okay, so I'm going to cover this family sign here in the Rust-Oleum linen chalk paint, and I will give that a couple coats. Once I decide how I want everything to look, I will go ahead and glue everything down. Now, the windmill, I just used hot glue, but I do suggest using it in combination with some E6000. It'll just give it that extra adhesive, especially if it's something a little heavier. And so I do use both E6000 and hot glue on the family sign. And again, I do recommend that. And then I'm just setting my paint can on top just to give it some weight to help it stay glued down to my tobacco basket. And while I'm giving that some time to adhere, I'm going to go ahead and make my ribbon. Now when I have ribbon that only has the pattern on one side, this is my preferred way to make the ribbon, so I don't have any of that other side showing through. So what I do is I make a long strip and I fold it over and glue it, basically making a circle. And then I will cut another strip just slightly smaller than the first one, and that will form the bow part. And I will go ahead and push those together, and I will tie them in the middle, and that is how I will make my bow. I'll lay the shorter one on top of the longer one. I'll fold it in half to find my center, and then I'll go ahead and take a little piece of twine and I will tie that around the middle, and I'll give that a double knot. And I just kind of fluff my bow around, and then I will cut two strips that will become the tails, and I'll just go ahead and pinch those together at the top and glue them to my bow. And while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and attach my bow. And then I have the lambs here that I'll go ahead and just insert underneath my bow. I always do the bow first because I find that sometimes if I do my leaves first, things don't add up. So go ahead and just glue the leaves and just kind of push them under the bow. And then once this project is dry, it is complete. I am so excited that I was able to score some of these amazing calendars that the Dollar Tree put out this year. They're so, so good. As you can see, look, there's some really cute Easter. Each holiday has like really good designs that you can rip out and Mod Podge. I got like 3 different calendars and they're so good. I hold the lemons. Lemons are so cute. Bless our nest, we all love that. Be kind. These are all amazing signs that you can make out of this calendar. So since I'm doing one for my bedroom, I went ahead and chose the one that talked about love. And not only does it talk about love, but it is in my color scheme, which is grays and whites. And so I'm going to use it on this project. Now this calendar, the pages are very thin. And so I personally worry a little bit about Mod Podge just because it can cause quite a bit of wrinkles if you get it too wet. I have heard that you can still Mod Podge on it. Don't get scared, but I just want to make sure I didn't have too many wrinkles. So I just use a glue stick. And then I got this at Target in their clearance section for a little over $3. And it's this little wood palette sign. And I just have been saving it for a special project, and this is it. Again, my favorite chalk paint, this Rust-Oleum linen paint. I got this off Amazon about 7 months ago. I don't know if you can see in there how much is left, but I tell you what, such a good deal because I use it all the time and it has so much left still. But it's just a really good white. It's a little bit off-white and it dries well. I just love everything about this paint can, which is good because I had a lot of it. Alright, so like I said, I didn't Mod Podge. I went ahead and just used a glue stick. And like I said, the paper is really thin. So I went ahead and glued it down on a piece of cardboard. This is actually the cardboard that came inside the calendar, so that worked out great. And then I'll go ahead and I'll just trim it all down. And then once I get that done, I will go ahead and use my hot glue gun and glue the piece of cardboard down to my palette sign. I'm going to take some more of this eucalyptus stem that I got from Walmart. As you can see, I've already used it sometimes, and I still have plenty left. So for $1.99, I'm really getting my money's worth. So I'm just going to cut off 2 branches to give the top of my sign here a cute little look. And I'm going to use 3 of these ribbons that I picked up from the Dollar Tree, the burlap ribbon, the green, I think they say grosgrain, if I'm saying that right, grosgrain, I don't know, one of those. And then actually I should say this last one is not from the Dollar Tree, it's a little gray gingham, but Dollar Tree does carry similar ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and I will make some ribbons out of those and add that to the top of my sign with my eucalyptus, and this sign will be complete. Super easy. So for this first project, I grabbed some of these wood boards from my scrap pile. I buy my scrap wood on Facebook Marketplace because a lot of carpenters and whatnot, they sell what they have left over. And I just buy like a crate for a certain amount. So it works out great. So I went ahead and I painted them all white with my Rust-Oleum linen white paint. And I'm going to take the 3 different sizes here, and those are going to be my pumpkins. And then I went into my Cricut design space, and I decided how big I wanted the letters, and then I went ahead and I cut out vinyl. I used the font Aphasia BT, and I did 3.5 inches tall by 3 inches wide, and I will link that down below. So you will have the spelling and everything. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put my vinyl down and peel it up. And that will put the letters down on my pumpkins. I thought this looked so high-end. However, if you don't have a Cricut machine, you can use stickers. You can paint the letters yourself. But either way, loved how it looked. Okay, so now I'm going to take some of the dollar store has these wood pieces. I found one bag one time, and what I wouldn't give to find a whole bunch of them. So I really hope you guys can find them because these make the best pumpkin tops. However, don't despair, because I think a lot of us have sticks in our yards that could easily work. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some E6000 on there and hot glue. And I do that because the hot glue kind of gives it an instant adhering, and the E6000 gives it a more permanent adhesive. So go ahead and I will put those on the tops of my 3 pumpkins. I'm using the wired jute from Dollar Tree, and I realized I said dollar store in the last one, but I meant Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree all around. I don't have a dollar store, Dollar Tree. Okay, so I'm taking the wired jute and I'm just going to wrap it around a pen, anything you have, and I'm just going to make the little curlicues that will come out of the pumpkin stems. And I'll make 3 of those. As you can see, I just add a little hot glue to the tips so that my jute does not fray. I grabbed these leaf ornaments from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab 3 of those, and I'm going to give them a wood stain look with the Waverly Antique Wax. And I love this product because it gives it that like I said, stain look. I'm going to grab a little bit of this wood filler, and I'm going to fill in the holes here to my ornaments, since they're not going to be ornaments. And so this will just fill those holes. After it dries, I just give it a light sanding to get it smooth, and then I will paint them. Now it's time to start attaching things. So I take my little curlicues and I just lightly wrap them around the stem. I don't want to cause too much weight on that stem, so I just lightly put it on there, and then I'll dab a little glue on it. And then I'll go ahead and obviously I'm going to put a little hot glue on my leaf, and I will put that down. And then I'm just going to take some of these ribbons that I've picked up. Some are from Dollar Tree. Actually, I think all of these ones are from Dollar Tree. And I'll just make some bows, and I will just spruce this up. As you see the lighting changes in the video right there, that means that one of my kids has walked into my studio and opened the door wide. And it's beautiful light, but it's way, 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 way too hot to have that door open. Where I live, it's about 105 degrees, so really trying to get those fall vibes coming because I am tired of this hot weather. Okay, and I'm also just going to add a little bit of raffia with my bows just to give it a little bit more of that rusticness. And once all of these are decorated to my liking, I will go ahead and I will put my pumpkins on the last board, the fourth board, to make it a stand. For this project, I grabbed one of these windmills from the Dollar Tree. This, just some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. This is just a piece of foam core board that I already cut. And these letters that I also cut, and you can see here, I just printed them out on my printer and then I just hand cut these out. I will give a link so that you can do these yourself. You could also use your Cricut or Silhouette machine, but I wanted to make something that any of you could do. These two metal, gosh, I don't know what you would call them, these metal signs, I guess, I purchased at Walmart. You get two different sizes. They come in a pack of two, and I want to say it's like $4. It's really inexpensive. And so we're going to use this for the back of our sign today. First, I'm going to dismantle the welcome part off of this sign as well as the chain. this windmill has a bluish tint to it, and it just kind of looks a little cheap. And well, it is from the Dollar Tree. So I am just putting a light coat of gray paint over the top just to kind of dull it, give it more of a rustic look. And I really like how it turned out. It really helped dull the blue and just make it look a little bit more metal. I measured out 11 by 11 on this the foam board, and that's what I cut this to. That'll give me a nice metal border when I put it down on that metal piece. So I'm going to go ahead and just take some double stick tape. You can use glue, anything. I kind of like double stick tape because it's not that messy. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap the scrapbook paper around the foam core board. I use Mod Podge around the edges here to wrap the paper around and secure it. And then I just use regular Scotch tape to double secure it. Now I'm going to place everything down, kind of decide where it's going to go. And I decided not to use the little middle button on the windmill. I kind of liked it without it. So yep, I'm going to go ahead and find where I want these to lay. And then I will go ahead and Mod Podge the letters down onto my board. Now I'm going to glue my foam board down to my metal sign. And I just want to keep in mind there's the raised portions and then there's the valley. So the mountains and the valleys of this thing. So you can only put the glue on the mountain parts, the upper parts. I hope that makes sense. And then I'll go ahead and glue my windmill on, and this project is complete. For this first project, we're going to use this Peace on Earth unfinished wood sign from Dollar Tree. One of their Christmas signs. We'll use the back. And I grabbed some of these bells. They were on clearance last year at Joann's. Some twine, some of these ornaments from Walmart, and some antique wax, and some white chalk paint, a little bit of wood filler, and then just any leaf or Christmas pick that you find. So first I'm just going to prep this sign. I'm going to use a little wood filler here on these little circles so that it will look like one complete sign. Once that dries and I can sand it down, then I will paint the whole sign with chalk paint. While that wood filler dries, I will go ahead and paint this sign with the antique wax. This stuff works so great. It looks like stain and it goes on really quick and dries really quick. And I just use a light hand, not too heavy. Again, I want it to look like stain. Now I'll just give this a light sand and cover this with white chalk paint. Again, I'm going to use a light hand. I'm not going to fully cover the sign. I'm going to kind of leave some spots that you can see the brown through it because I really want this to have kind of a distressed rustic look. Now I'm just going to attach this Peace on Earth sign, and I am going to make it go all the way to the right because on the left we are going to decorate that side. First, I'm going to take some of this twine and I'm going to wrap it around several times. I believe I do about 3 times here, and then I'll just tie it off in the back. I got this gorgeous pick from Michael's in the grab bag last year. I literally got like 15 of these in a $5 grab bag. It was amazing. And I want to say they're like $20 retail, which is crazy to me. But I just go ahead and I clip off a couple different types of leaves that were on there just to kind of find the one that I like best. And I go ahead and I pick this one. And so I will glue that down. And then I grab one of these wooden looking ornaments from Walmart. I am loving their ornaments this year, these little tiny ones. They make amazing embellishments. And so I'm just going to take this one here that looks like a tree and I think just fits absolutely perfect. And then again, one of these bells from Joann's. Again, I got these on clearance last year. I bought so many things like on super clearance. So this project is actually super inexpensive to make. So make sure you catch those after sales in January and get some good stuff for next year. So once I kind of decide that I like my design, I'll go ahead and attach everything down. Lastly, I'll just cut some of this wrapping paper from Dollar Tree just to finish off the back of the sign. Now on to the tiered tray. For this project, you're going to need 2 picture frames. You're going to need some needle nose pliers. You're going to need paint, some E6000, and a candlestick. I picked this candlestick up at a garage sale, and they're usually easy to find at thrift stores. You're also going to need some thin cardboard pieces, and this is going to help with getting your frame flat again. Now for this project, we are going to use the back of the frames because we want a flat surface. So just like in the previous project, I'm going to take off all the hardware and ickiness off the back so that I have a nice flat surface. And then I'm going to take my flat piece of cardboard, cardstock. I guess it's not card, it's what comes with cardstock, so just a little bit thicker. And I'm going to trace around that and then cut it out. Now I used my paper cutter to get this out because I wanted a really nice solid cut, so it was straight. But you can do this with a X-Acto knife and ruler, or if you're really good with scissors, cutting it out. But for me, I just wanted to make sure it was a perfect cut. And now I'm going to attach my thin piece of cardboard to my backing, and then I will attach that back into the frame. And now I will repeat those steps for my second frame. And now it's time to cover these frames in paint. Once again, I used chalk paint in linen white. I ordered this paint from Amazon and it has lasted me for a lot of projects. So a big old can of this is highly recommended. You're just gonna put this on generously on all parts of the frame except you can do the bottom if you like. And it took me 2 coats to get these to the coverage that I wanted. And then of course I'm covering my candlestick. Once my frames and candlestick are dry, I am now going to distress the whole project. And so I take a little bit of black paint and I use a dry brush and I get just a small amount on my brush and then I start lightly wiping it onto my frame. Now you're going while you watch me paint this here. Like I said, I'm using just a light hand and taking my time to give it that distressed look. I just also want to thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing, and you've really made my 2020 so exciting. When I started this channel in April, I just had no idea that I would get as far as I have. This is actually my second project that I ever posted, and it's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite decor pieces. I decorate it for every holiday, and it's just, it works out so great in my decor. So I hope these projects have inspired you. I just really can't wait to show you more in 2021. And again, thank you so much for supporting my channel. Okay, now that I'm happy with all of my distressing, it's time to piece it all together. So I'm going to take the largest picture frame and I'm just kind of trying to find the center so I will know where to glue my candlestick. Okay, so now I'm going to add my E6000 glue to the bottom of my candlestick. You can use just hot glue, but it's not going to be as sturdy. And since you're going to be adding items on the top tier, it's best to make this really sturdy. So I'm using the E6000, and then I'm also going to use hot glue just because it helps keep it in place while it's drying. Now I'm adhering the top tier to this tray, and I'm going to, you'll see here, I'm going to even it up a little as it's crooked at first. There we go. And I just kind of, I take my ruler and just kind of checking to see if it looks like it's even. And that's it. This beautiful tier tray is done. You should wait a day until you decorate it because you want to make sure your glue has dried properly. But I just think this tray turned out so good and looks so high end. And in the next frame, you're going to get to see how I decorated it. For this last project, I am going to take this sign from the Dollar Tree. You can see that it is Halloween. These actually were 50 cents after Halloween, and I bought like, I don't know, 10 of them at least. Because these make great projects year-round, the mason jar. I do believe they have a mason jar right now for their 4th of July, so you should be able to find that sign now. So I just peel everything off of it, I prep it, and then I will be using a Dollar Tree placemat to make this next project. Now I'm going to cut this placemat up so that I can adhere it onto my mason jar sign. The live part was off to the side and I wanted it to all line up. So I cut this straight, and then eventually you'll see here I cut the E and love away from each other too to give it a little extra. At this point I'm not exactly sure how it's going to fit, so you're going to kind of see me fiddle around with how I'm going to get it all to fit on there. At this point, I decide they're not going to touch each other. There's going to be a space in between each word. So I'm going to paint black in those strips so that when you see that space through, you'll only see black. Now, I was trying to just get by with painting the strips, but then I kept having to move where I was painting, and honestly, if I would have just painted the whole thing, it probably would have been easier. So it's up to you. But I kind of lined it up and I painted the strips. And now it is time to glue these 3 strips from the placemat onto the mason jar sign. Okay, I didn't show this step, but I did quick and paint the lid from the purple that was there, and I turned it, I painted it gray. I just did that by mixing some black and white paint. And then I will finish by adding the last strip to the sign. Okay, and now I'm going to flip over the sign and I'm going to cut off all this excess placemat so that it is just in the spots we need it. And you'll see here, I cut it once around and then I kind of go back and trim it up. And for the last step, of course, I have to add some ribbon. So I just have this small buffalo check ribbon that I picked up from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to glue a strip to the back, and then I'm going to tie a little ribbon, a little bow, and add that to the front, and this project will be complete. What I also love about this sign is that it is a placemat. So it's really durable kitchen decor because if anything gets on it, really you can just wipe it off. And so I just think it makes the perfect decor for your kitchen. For the first project, I'm going to take this home sign from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take some scrapbook paper that I picked up from Joann's and a scrap piece of wood that I just had in my stash. And then I'm just going to paint that piece of wood with a darker red paint. And I want a really thin layer because I kind of want it to look almost like a stain and more rustic. Now I just grabbed a baby wipe just to kind of wipe off some of this excess paint. You can use a Clorox wipe, you can use a wet paper towel. It really doesn't matter which one, just something with some moisture that can wipe up the extra paint. Now I'm going to take this home sign and I'm going to go ahead and break apart the letters. They break apart pretty easily. At first I leave the little prongs in there thinking that I'm going to keep them to put everything back together, but then it ends up being better just to kind of take the little metal pieces off the two letters that have them. So now I'm just going to trace around my letters onto my scrapbook paper. And this first one, I'm not sure why I was doing it the hard way and tracing on top of the pattern. I normally always flip it over and do on the back, so I definitely recommend that, and I do that on the other letters. So you just pick out your print for each letter, trace it, and cut it out. And this is the part that I previously mentioned. I just take my needle nose pliers and I just kind of pick out those little pokey prongs that were originally holding this together, because when I attach it later on, I really didn't need those. And now it's time to Mod Podge these papers onto the letters. And something you're going to learn about me is that I am a scrapbook paper addict. The amount I have, I could easily open a store. I absolutely love the patterns. I love mixing patterns. So you'll probably see a lot of this type of stuff in my videos. I just really think it adds something extra than just painting it. Now with this project, you absolutely could just paint these letters red, white, and blue. But again, I love patterns, and this paper from Joann's, I think it was 4 for $1, so really affordable, and yep, I just love it. Real quick, I want to show you this pen X-Acto knife. And so it's a really tiny blade, kind of like we would find in your Cricut. So you can cut more like circle with it. And honestly, I forgot I had it when I was cutting out my O. Alright, so I wanted to make a saying to go on the bottom of my sign. And so I came up with home of the free because of the brave. And I just made that on my Cricut. And real quick, before I do that, I just sanded down the edges of my home sign, and this just gets off any extra paper. It also just gives it a little extra rustic farmhouse look. You can use sandpaper, but I find that I really like just using a nail file. It's really easy to hold and do around the letters. I'm new at using vinyl with the Cricut, and I really appreciate the tips that I got on my last video. They were really helpful, and that was to put your image upside down when you're peeling it off, and that worked so much better. So that's all I do right here, and I mean, what a big difference it was just by flipping it over. So again, I so appreciate tips. Please comment with tips whenever you might have one, because I will probably use it. Now it's time to glue my letters back together. Now, one thing I want to mention, you want to make sure the bottoms of your letters all line up so they are flat. I kind of missed the mark a little bit on the M, so just really make sure that when you're putting it on, you hold the letters vertically to make sure, again, that the bottoms are all flat in the same level. I'm just going to quickly sand around my base. I just again want to make it even more of a rustic feel. And now it's time to attach the home letters onto the base, and then the project is complete. For this last project, I wanted to kind of get back to my roots, which is scrapbooking and paper crafting. I have an entire craft shed full of scrapbook supplies, so that means stickers and buttons and brads and you name it, I probably have it. And so I really wanted just to fully make over one of these pumpkin signs with as many textures and things as I could. And so I start that here by using some of this Dollar Tree contact paper. And I'm going to use it actually on both sides, so it'll be a finished project. And this was all inspired by Linda over at Faith Chick 777. I will link her down below. Oh, I love her paper crafting, how she adds it into her crafting. So inspiring, and that is why I wanted to make this project. So it's a little bit more advanced, and it's not necessarily things you can just go out and buy all these little tiny things, but if you're a craft hoarder like myself, go into your stash, find a bunch of little fun things, and just start adding them to your project. As I said that, it reminded me, you can use things like bottle caps and bread ties and, pieces of straw. Like, just think outside the box. Think of things that have texture that you could add to a project. So I have this piece of scrapbook paper that kind of looks like leather, and I traced out the pumpkin, but I don't want this piece of paper to be as big, because I don't want to cover the spot where I had the contact paper. But I also want to give this a different look. So what I've done is I've drawn a little bit smaller of a pumpkin on the back, and then I'm taking my paintbrush and water, and I'm watering along that line, and it just makes it so that you can tear the paper really easy. And again, that just adds another element of texture, having it be torn. For the next element of texture, I'm using that same rug anti-slip mat. And I'm going to do the same thing here where I cut it down smaller than this brown piece of scrapbook paper. So now I just kind of start laying stuff down. I start playing around with the different things I have pulled out from my stash. I won't be using everything, but I'll start using some of the things. For the little slip mat, I just glue it down in the middle there because I know I'm going to be putting something over that area, so it's not going to matter if the glue shows through. And then I'll just yeah, like I said, I'm just going to keep kind of pushing things down. I'm going to add a little bit of this glue because it does dry clear, and so that will work. And this is another piece of scrapbook paper that kind of looks like linen. This piece, this grateful wood piece there I got from Hobby Lobby, I do believe, but I know Michaels and Joann's carry them too. So, and then I'm going to take my little ink pad here in Java, which is a brown color, and I'm just going to ink the edges of my paper here and just add a little bit of distressing around. So I know I'm moving rather quickly through this project, but I'm really just trying to give you a visualization of the different textures that I use and how I just start layering different items. So as you see, I'm putting a little bit of burlap on the stem, and then I'm going to use that big old leaf again. I love those leaves, and I'm going to cut it down, and I'm actually going to make 3 leaves out of this. Okay, now I'm just going to start playing around with some of my ribbon here from Dollar Tree, as well as some of the burlap from Dollar Tree. I got this little, who knows where this little tag is from, in my stash, and this other little tag too. But I do know you can buy these little, I don't know how you say it, ephemera, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to say that word, but little pieces at the scrapbook section. I had this little leather frame, this little tiny frame. I guess you could put it around somebody's face in a picture. Grab some of these little leaf buttons, and then I'm just going to start layering everything down. I'm gonna just take my paintbrush and dip it into the ink pad and then just kind of go around this grateful just to give it a little bit more of an aged look and to make it pop off the paper a little bit more. Isn't it funny how my little ink pad's just kind of jumping around when I have it in fast motion like that? And then I'm just gonna add a few more little embellishments. Then I'm gonna take one of the little chipboard pumpkins from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cover it in the ink from the chalk pad. And then I'll use one of those little white rub-ons, and then I will add that to my project. I had such a good time making this pumpkin. It was just a fun way to use textures and scraps of other things I had in my stash, and just to kind of make something totally different and unique. And so yeah, this was so fun. I plan to do some more projects like this, so I hope you enjoy ones like this. It'll help you use up some of those things that you've held on to. For this next project, I wanted to create a farmhouse clock. I had seen some around and they were all over $100. And so I knew I could recreate it for around $10. I used both of these as my inspiration, and I am so excited with how this turned out. It has been on my wall for several days. It works, and I'm so excited. The supplies you will need is 2 of the poster boards from the Dollar Tree, as well as an 18-inch wire wreath form. You'll need a pack of the 4 tin cans, I think they call them, a wooden dowel, 2 of the sticker sheets with the numbers on them, an X-Acto knife. You will need some E6000, some extra strength tape, a glue gun, some paint, and lastly, a working part of a clock. So you can take apart an old clock you have, or I will link below a little clock kit for $5 off Amazon. Alright, so once you gather those supplies, you're going to start with your foam boards. So they are 20 inches wide, so I want to make a square. So I'm going to make it 20 by 20. And this will work perfectly with our 18-inch wire wreath form. If you want to make a smaller one, Dollar Tree does carry smaller wreath forms, and so then you would only need 1 of these foam boards, I do believe. And the only reason I needed 2 is because I need a longer piece for the center. So now I'm going to cut 4 strips at 1.5 inches each, and this is going to be the border of our clock. As you'll see me working on the ground here, I found this project, because it was a little larger, that I actually just sat down on the ground and worked on this project. It worked a little bit better for me than taking over my entire kitchen table, that I think my family appreciated that. And so right here I'm just going to cut down the top and bottom pieces to fit in to my square here. And now I want to make an X in this clock sign, and so I measure across and it is 24 inches. And this is why I needed the second piece of board, because I didn't have 24 inches in length left in my other board. And so here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of do, I guess you would call it kind of like an arrow in the corners so that it will fit in my corner. Does that make sense? So I'm making the tip of my cross sides pointed so it'll fit into the corner of the whole thing. I hope that makes sense. I think you can see here what I'm doing. Okay, now I'm going to take apart my wire wreath frame. You'll see me struggle a little bit, but I promise you it's really easy. The pieces are held together by the horizontal pieces, and you literally just have to take your pliers and just bend them, and the whole thing will come apart. So just takes a little bit of time, but I promise you it's super easy. I'm kind of wussy with my hands, and I didn't have a problem. And once you unbend them all, the outer ring and the inner ring will be released. And they become the perfect size for our clock. Okay, so now it's time to just glue everything down that I have so far. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the border down, and then I will glue my X down. And when I'm gluing my X down, I want to cut it in a way so that they're not laying over the top of each other. Also, I don't know what I would do if my glue gun was not cordless on this project, because I was nowhere near where the cord would be. So I use a SureBonder cordless glue gun that I will link in the description. I just love it. Who wants to be tangled up in a cord? I don't. Now I'm going to give this clock a coat of paint with the Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen, and I will just cover the whole thing with this paint. Once everything's covered, I'm going to go ahead and start distressing it. I use steel gray chalk paint from Waverly, and I just took a very dry brush. So this brush was actually one that had kind of had crusted paint on it because I wanted it to be super stiff. And I just barely dip it in the gray paint, kind of wipe it off a little bit, and then just brush it across this sign, clock, whatever you want to call it. And as soon as this gray starts going down, I can't even believe how rustic wood it looks. I originally squirted some brown paint down, as you'll see, because I thought I was going to use some brown, but I just loved the way the gray looked, and I didn't think I needed the brown. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to do this all over the entire thing, as you see here, and it just looks, it really looks like wood. Okay, so now it's time to work on our numbers. I got these stickers from Dollar Tree. I was one short, so I had to get 2 sheets. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to stick them down on just a little piece of thin cardboard, or you might call this chipboard. This is just going to give our numbers a little bit more substance because a sticker isn't quite hefty enough. Then I'm going to take some white, that same white Rust-Oleum paint, and a little bit of black Waverly chalk paint, and I'm just going to mix these together to get a good gray. Once I'm happy with the gray, I'm going to take one of the little dabber sponges from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to start dabbing that on all the numbers. And this is going to give us our galvanized metal look. And so as I'm dabbing, just kind of being very sporadic and random. And then I'm going to go back in after I've got them down all in the gray. I'm going to go back in with that black, do a little bit more on top, and I'm just going to kind of keep dabbing until I get that metal look that I'm looking for. Once my numbers are dry, I will go ahead and just cut them out with my scissors. You can use an X-Acto knife if you're better with that. I'm better with scissors, so I just go, and I didn't have any problem just following the sticker outline and cutting them. Okay, and then once that's done, the next step is going to be using these 10 circle, what do you call it? Circle tins from the Dollar Tree. I just need 2 of them, and I just need the lids. And these are going to be like our faux rollers to our like barn door clock, if you so. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cover these with the black chalk paint. And I'm going to take my wood dowel, and this was just in my scrap wood, thankfully, and it was literally the perfect length, but you can get these at any hardware store. And I just also cover this with the black chalk paint. When all my numbers are cut out, I'm going to take black ink, and I'm just going to dip a sponge in the ink, and then I will just brush it on the outsides of my numbers. And this just gives that a little bit of depth and makes it look like a rustic metal number. Now I'm going to tack down my wire frame here. I'm just going to use a small bead of hot glue more than anything just to kind of keep it in place. And then what I'm going to do once all of that is kind of tacked down and in place, I'm going to take some of the wire that I find in the automotive area of the Dollar Tree and use that wire to just really hold it in place. So right now I'm just checking to see where my numbers would lie because I want my wire to be under that so you don't see it. I'm going to take my little piercer tool from Dollar Tree and I'm going to pierce a hole on each side of the wire frame. And then I'm going to take my little piece of wire and I'll feed it in so that you can see it goes over my frame, and I'll pull it tight. And then I will twist it, and that will just give my wire frame a little bit more sturdiness to, more adhered to my board so that we don't have to worry about it falling off. Now I'm going to adhere all the numbers down. Now I originally used hot glue, but here's the thing. Wire and hot glue is kind of iffy. It doesn't always hold. And so I highly recommend you use E6000 instead because I ended up going back later and re-gluing them with that. So while hot glue is nice and quick, E6000 works a little better. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint on my faux hinges. Hinges is the word. I'm going to paint on the hinges. Really all I'm doing is painting on a rectangle. So don't worry, it's not that hard, just painting on a black rectangle. Then I took some brads that I had in my stash and I painted those black as well. And I'm going to use my piercer tool here and I'm going to pierce 2 holes and I'll feed those brads through this. the tin lid, I'm going to also pierce a hole into the center and feed a brad through. Okay, so now I'm going to use a fun tool that you've probably not seen. This is called a crocodile, and it has two different hole punches that make two different size circles. And then this middle part here is for putting together brads and eyelets. No, grommets and eyelets. It's actually a scrapbooking tool, and I'm a scrapbooker at heart, and so that is where this tool comes from. It works great. It the hole punch goes through like anything, and it works really good on belts, like when you need that extra hole in a belt. And so if it's something you're interested in, I will also link that tool down below. Okay, so once I got my little hole in my tin, now I'm going to just kind of make a little hole in the top of my board here. This is what's so great about working with foam board. It's so easy to work with. So I just grabbed this little piece of a skewer that I had also painted with the black chalk paint, and this is going to be what adheres our a roller to the top, even though this is not a non-functioning roller. Let me just tell you that part. It's just for looks. So there you go. That's what that is going to look like. So there was a little piece of hot glue in there, and push this skewer back in there. Then I'll flip my board over, and we will feed the tin through there, and I'm just going to put a bunch of hot glue in here to adhere it. Again, metal / tin and hot glue don't always get along. They don't always stick. But this is kind of temporary, because when I go to really adhere this down, I'm going to use some Gorilla Glue tape. And so that'll be our final adhering. And that is what I'm going to do right here. So now I put it down on the ground, face side down, and I've put the dowel across the top, and I'm going to use this Gorilla Glue black tape here to get the wooden dowel to stick to the circle tins. And so right here, I'm just making sure that my dowel is equal on both sides. And for some reason, of course, putting the little clock pack in, that footage disappeared. But you're just going to use that piercer tool again to make a circle in the very middle of the clock, and then just kind of work it till it's big enough for your clock piece. And it's the easiest thing. You'll know when you see it. You just push it right through. And then when you flip your clock over, you'll just push the little hands down, and that's it. I use the same tape, just adhere that back part onto the clock. And then here you will see a front view of how the hands look once they're in place. And this farmhouse clock is complete. I think it turned out so good. I think it looks good as a picture. What do you think? This may be one of my most favorite projects. I hope you enjoyed it too, and I hope it's something you feel like you can make, because that's over $100 that you'll be saving by making this project yourself. For this project, you'll need this Thankful and Blessed sign from Dollar Tree, and then this wood looking sticker, I guess you would call it, also from Dollar Tree. I guess it can be used on like your wall as like a backsplash, but I'm going to use it on this pumpkin. And I love mixing textures. That is one of my favorites. I like metals and woods and natural things, so I thought this is going to be a really cool pumpkin. So I go ahead and I just flip my pumpkin over, and this, like I said, it is adhesive and it is very sticky. So I'm going to go ahead, and it's just like the perfect size. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick it down on top of my pumpkin, and then I will cut around it. And you'll see me fiddle a little bit with cutting because it is so sticky. As you can see, it kind of lifted from the backing sheet. Easy fix. I just took a little bit of hot glue and went around the pumpkin, and that adhered it great. I'm going to use some of this new, I guess you would say white or cream nautical rope that the Dollar Tree is carrying. One pack will be enough. I'm going to go ahead and just put it around my pumpkin, as you can see, just hot glue, and just kind of give it that 3D look. And like I did in the last project, I'm going to glue this twine to the back of my stem and just wrap it around to make that jute twine stem. And now it's time to embellish with a ribbon. I do believe I got this ribbon either from Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I'm going to make a jute bow. So the way I do that is I just cut off a little strip. That'll be how I tie it off. And then I go ahead and I just wrap this a few times around my fingers. It just depends how full you want it. Once I get that, I go ahead and take that first piece that I cut off and I put it around the middle of where my fingers were, and I'll tie it in a knot, and that will make a jute bow. I'll reattach this metal leaf that was on the pumpkin originally and add my jute bow, and this very neutral mixed textured pumpkin will be complete. For this last project, I'm going to make over these two houses from the Dollar Tree. I got this little wood round also from the Dollar Tree, so I printed off something that is a circle that is similar in size, and I will give you a link to that. Just some scrapbook paper, some ribbon, white paint, and some Mod Podge. And then I found this at the hardware store. It's called like Gutter Guard, something like that. And so it's like $3 for this huge roll. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love that texture. I'm going to buy it and see what I can do. Okay, so now I'm just going to paint these two houses white. I'm going to use the back side of the taller one and then the inside of the shorter one. So while I'm painting these, I just have to say I've actually held on to these houses since they came out last year because I wanted to make sure I did something special with them because they're so hard to find. And they're back. You can actually get them on the website right now. So I actually ordered a whole case of them because I'm so excited to have more of them. But be on the lookout because they are going to be in your Dollar Tree soon. So I went into my stash because I was looking for the little white picket fence that you can buy. I mean, Joann's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby all have them. They're already made. They're these little wood picket fences. And I couldn't find it. But I did find these little mini popsicle sticks. And I was like, I guess I'll just make my own little fence. Much easier just to buy the pre-made one. But you can do it this way too. So I'm just going to paint these little sticks white as well, and then I'm going to glue them together to make a little picket fence. So I measured my circle and then I got on my computer and I drew a little circle a little bit smaller, and then I found a graphic by just searching like Farmhouse graphic, and then I just made this little printable, printed it out on my printer, and now I'm just going to hold this up to the light so that I can see where it's going to be centered, and then I go ahead and I trace it and I cut it out, and then I will Mod Podge it right onto this piece of wood. I'm going to cover the taller house with this buffalo check paper. Uh, I obviously did not need to paint that top part of it, but didn't hurt anything. So I'll go ahead and just cut this out, and I will also Mod Podge that on to the large house. For the gutter guard, I just cut off a strip, and then I just kind of made little snips and cuts until I got it to fit, and that's the piece right here. Didn't think you needed to see me fumble around. And so to get this inside, oh, ignore that. I was just fixing some paint going on in there. Okay, so I haven't adhered anything yet. Now I'm going to adhere my fence together. So I just take my hot glue gun and glue this little fence together. I'm just going to cut down my fence here because I don't want it to be super tall and cover the graphic, and so just with simple scissors I can cut it down. Now it's just a matter of adhering everything together, and I'm going to add just a little bow, and this project will be complete. With these houses, you can turn them around and decorate them for another season. This project is a set of faux books. I used one of these packages of tumbling blocks from the Dollar Tree and some ribbon. I used just some white cardstock and just some markers. And this project, really inexpensive. It's cost just barely over $1, and it's a nice alternative to actual books. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put these into threes. So for my first layer, I have 3, 6, 12 blocks here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue a set of 3 together, and I'm going to do that 4 times. And once my 4 sections are done, now I'm going to glue one section on top of the other, and I'm going to do that one more time. And once those are done, I'm going to glue those 2 sections together. And there's my first faux book. And I'm going to do this 2 more times so that I have 3 faux books. Now I'm going to measure my cardstock so that I can fold it all the way around these wood blocks, and that will be my cover of my book. So I will cut 3 of those out. Now before I glue my covers on, I'm going to go ahead and write what I want to say, so that way in case I mess up, I can just cut a new one. So I decided that I wanted my books to say stars and stripes. There's a ton of different sayings you could say, like home of the brave, or land that I love, sweet land of liberty, God bless America. So you got a lot of choices here. If you want to step this project up a notch, you could go onto your computer and you could type these out and print them, and then your lettering will be spot on. But I thought sometimes I just like to have my own handwriting too, so I wanted to make this a quick and easy DIY, but like I said, you can always step it up a notch. This is a really great set of double-sided markers that are from Michaels, and I will make sure that I link those down below as well. Another great tool is this glue gun from SureBonder. It is cordless, and I know that in the past I have gotten so irritated with the cord getting in my way, or it kind of like falling down because the cord like shoots off the table or whatever. So this one actually can be off the charger for 2 minutes. Typically I just put it right back on its base, but it has a little glue trap, I guess you would call it, or a drip trap also. So it's a really great glue gun. I will also link that down below, and any other items that I think you will also love. And once our books are all glued with our covers on them, I'm just going to add a ribbon and our faux book stack will be complete. I often get asked about how I make my bows look nice and even, and so I wanted to go really slow on this part so you can see how I do it. I always pull it tight, and then I pull the tails till I get my loops to be exactly the same size. And once I do that, then I start clipping my tails, and everything is to the what's the word, equal sides. Okay, this is my favorite project of this video. So I'm using one of these decor pieces from the Dollar Tree, and then I found these cute little gnome ornaments on a site called Craft Deals. I got all sorts of gnome unfinished wood, and they have a bunch of other unfinished wood. So I will definitely link that below. A very affordable pricing. So yeah, the site is amazing. So anyhow, I'm going to take apart this truck. I'm going to take the tree off, and then after I do that, I'm going to sand off the Merry Christmas glitter. And since that's going to leave kind of a, a film afterwards, then I'm just going to cover it with a coat of red chalk paint. Okay, I wish I knew which DIYer I saw with this little ladybug vacuum. That totally influenced me to buy one. But anyhow, it totally vacuums up your glitter or any little, pieces. It's a must. It's a must to have. I want to say it's like $10. I will link that below too. Okay, and as you can see, I already painted my truck. I painted it with the crimson red paint, chalk paint, and now I'm going to use this ivory chalk paint to paint my gnome beards. For their hats, I had some of this buffalo check just scrap ribbon that, you know, I can't throw the scraps away, so I'm just using a little bit of this detailed glue that I got from Dollar Tree, and then I'm just going to glue this piece of ribbon as their hat, and then I will just cut around it. I found a couple pink beads in my stash, so I thought those would make cute noses. You could use little mini pom-poms. You could just draw the nose on, so all sorts of little things. And then I did have some of these white pom-poms, and I just kind of cut it down and roll it to use on the tip of his hat. So with my Cricut, I cut out the words "rollin' with my nomies." And so I'm just going to add that to the front of this truck. Okay, here's where clearance shopping comes in handy. I got this sign for 49 cents at Ross. This was like, who knows how far past Christmas, but way past Christmas, and it was still in their stuff. And it's a cute sign. I don't really have much green in my decor, but so I could just cover this with a coat of black paint to cover up the words, but I was kind of getting tired by this point. So I just used a piece of black cardstock and I just glued that piece of cardstock down. And then I'm just going to kind of start, once I get this piece down, I'm going to glue my truck on, I'm going to glue my gnomes back in the truck and add a bow, and this project will be complete. For this next project, you're just going to need a board. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby in their clearance for $1.19, and one of these pots from the Dollar Tree, a piece of scrapbook paper, or you could even use some burlap. I found this paper that looks like burlap, so I was like, this is perfect. And so you'll go ahead and you'll cut out your piece of scrapbook paper or whatever you choose to use to put inside that picture frame. Again, I tell everyone, look for things on clearance that you can make over, because that sign is so cute to make over for $1.19. Has a really nice wood frame, and it's gonna be you'll see it's so easy to make over. and it's better than a board, you know, that you could pick up at the Dollar Tree. So definitely hit those clearance sales, those departments at your craft store. Hobby Lobby, it's in the back of the store. I think it's the same actually at Michael's and Joann's. It's always in the back of the store. So take a little trip down the aisle, see what you might find, because I think you can tell this is a really nice frame. So once I get that put in there, I see that this is showing through. So I'm just kind of rubbing a quick coat of white paint over it just so it won't show through on my scrapbook paper. And then I will go ahead and Mod Podge this down to my frame. And then once I get that completed, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the tin pot in half. So this was my first time doing that. I used some tin snips. It was really easy to cut as far as it wasn't hard on my hands, like I could cut it easily, but it's awkward because of the shape it's in. So take your time. It does take a little bit of trial and error there, but definitely with the tin snips, it's not hard to cut. With my half pot here, I'm just going to add some ribbon. I'll glue it to the back, wrap it around and glue it to the back on the other side. And then I'll go ahead and I will glue this tin down to my sign. And with the same buffalo check ribbon, I'm going to make a bow and add it to the front of this pot. This gingham ribbon is actually in the Halloween section right now at Dollar Tree, and I had to buy 4 rolls. I probably could have bought more, but what a great Dollar Tree find. And I'll just glue that ribbon on, and then I will fill this with some of this eucalyptus pick that I picked up at Walmart. I believe it was $2, and it's a really nice full pick, as you can see. I just cut the tip off, and then I can just put it right down in there. I actually had one I'd already used some pieces off of, so I ended up using that one. It wasn't quite as full. I didn't even glue this down in there. This way you can change it out if you'd like for a different season, but there it is. This last project is super easy, and I just think it turned out so great. This is a new sign that I found at Dollar Tree. I love it. This is Snowflake. It's from Michael's. It was on sale for $1, and some more of these ornaments from Walmart, as well as some more of the antique wax and some ribbon. And what I love about this snowflake is that it already has that whitewash rusticness to it, so I didn't even have to do anything. So that was pretty great. So first you're just going to cover this little wooden sign with this antique wax. And once that's done, it's just a matter of gluing everything down. So I just hot glue down the snowflake, then the little ornament charm and a bow, and that is it. This project is done. Super fast, super quick, but it looks really amazing. Okay, you'll need this sign and these metal letters from Dollar Tree. I lost the footage there, so I had to find it, little clip it from somewhere else. But anyhow, you're gonna paint that sign with black chalk paint. And then I just spray painted these metallic letters with white primer spray paint. You can also use white chalk paint. I just thought it was easier to do it that way. And I just went ahead and attached them with E6000 because I find with the hot glue on metal just doesn't stick that well. Okay, I'm sorry again if this footage went a little quick, but it was the only way I could recover it was in like speed mo. I'm going to take some of this plastic chain, also from Dollar Tree. It's super lightweight and every other chain will come undone. So I went ahead and I made groups of 3. And then I'm going to flip this sign over and I'm just going to add these little chains to go between my letters Haunted, Beware, and Spooky. Again, I will use some E6000 for that extra hold, but I'm also going to use some hot glue just to give it that immediate hold. This was another super simple DIY that I think turned out really good and looking way store-bought. For this first project, I'm going to use one of these sleds from Dollar Tree. They're cute on their own. I'm going to rustic this one up. And some of the tree stems, branch stems, whatever you want to call them, from Dollar Tree. 2 sheets of this scrapbook paper, and this stem that I picked up from Joann's. It, I believe, is normally $3.99. I got it for like $1 last year, but any stem will do. So I'm going to trace out this sled. That's hard to say. Not shed, but sled on this piece of paper. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the sled all the way to the right on this paper. It's really important that you do this on both pieces so that your lines match up. Now I'm just going to grab a piece of sanding paper here and just sand off that lovely glitter. And then I will use some Mod Podge and I will put the scrapbook paper on top of the sled. Because this is a little bit thicker wire on this stem, I'm going to use my tin snips. I will link a pair of them below. They definitely help me out because I do have weaker hands, so I need a little bit stronger of a tool, and so these work great. As you can see, just plops it right off. I'm going to use one of these little branches. Again, I'll call them branches. I'm not even sure what you call them. But anyhow, they have wire inside of them so you can manipulate them to whatever shape you like. And I am just going to put it there at the top of the portion of my sled. And then my bow will go on top of that. And so now I'm going to go ahead and get some ribbon out. This is some ribbon I picked up last year. I picked up so much clearance ribbon. I highly recommend buying on clearance after the season. It was like, I mean, we're doing Christmas, but it was like Christmas opening up all my ribbon that I bought for super cheap last year. So anyhow, for this type of ribbon, I am just going to make a loop by gluing the 2 ends together, and then I will gather it in the middle, and I'm going to make 2 of those loops. Okay, now I'm gonna lay the shorter loop on top of the longer loop. I'm gonna cut just a little piece of the ribbon here to cinch around the center, as you can see, just like that. And I will glue that together. Okay, now my ribbon needs some tails, so I'm going to cut a long strip. And I'm going to go ahead and dovetail the edges of both the sides, the edges of both of this ribbon. And then I will just kind of cinch it there in the middle. And I'm just going to take a little piece of twine and tie it just so it stays. I don't always do that, but this time I just feel like it was going to stay better if I did that. And then I'll glue it to the back of the bow. Okay, now it's just a matter of gluing all this down, and then this cute rustic sled is all complete. I often get asked, how do I store and organize all the decor that I make? And so I store a lot of it in my garage on racks. But I ran out of room, and I don't want to put any more racks in because I do like to park both cars into the garage. And so I found the best solution. It's the Flexi Spot garage rack, and it hangs from the ceiling. So you screw it into the joints of your ceiling, and then it hangs down. So it's totally out of the way, and it takes up all that space you weren't going to use anyway. And I got the 4 foot by 8 foot, which is huge, and I can put so much stuff up there. It holds 600 pounds. So I'm really excited about it. I think I might want another one. I just like everything off the ground. I like a clean garage, and so it's just been the perfect solution. So I'm gonna show you how I set it all up.